All right, let's get our Facebook groups up in here. So it's time to go. Got spinning wheels. And 1 and 2. Welcome in. Welcome in. Let's give it a second to breathe. Let's drop my phone there so it's not buzzing on the table here. And Scott's got his water, I'm sure. Probably water this time of day.
Yeah, I'm taking it. It's my coffee mug. It's my Broncos for breakfast mug, but it is full of water.
I did not have enough water today. I had a lot of coffee. Thank you, Patrick, over at Lion Coffee Company. But welcome in, guys. It is Tuesday night. Carl was going to be out. He had some other obligations, so we're wishing Carl well today with the day off. And it's once again Nick and Scott. Man, it's how you doing? I feel like we talk about as much, honestly, like words spoken, probably as much as I do with like my spouse at this point.
Anybody. Yeah, anybody. If especially with you working in an office, my wife and I actually work out of the house. So we go kind of our separate ways at night, between this stuff and dragging our kids everywhere. Like, how do you do it? I'm like, I see her all day. It's not, it is different, but yeah. And what's strange is Nick and I have never met face to face.
No.
Because he doesn't go to Broncos games. I do.
They pay me not to at this point. What am I, 0-9 in
That's
games?
true. That is true. I forgot about that. I'm 2-0.
Yeah.
2-0. There's 13 games. I'm 3 wins. I've been to both of them.
That's
2 of the 3.
Pretty damn wild. Welcome in, folks. Tuesday night, we had a good morning this morning. Had a little fun with Netane Muti's mom came in and hung out with us a little bit, and she was kind of dropping some nuggets of information that made it sound like something was going to happen today. And lo and behold, here we are with the news that Netane Muti's been picked up by the hated Las Vegas Raiders. That signed off the Denver Broncos practice squad after Muti looked solid this last week at left guard. Looked much better than Wattenberg and Bailey against Chris Jones, and really a disappointment. And you could see it from Broncos country, just the reactions on social media. People were upset about it. It's as much as you could be upset about a 5th round left guard that hasn't played very much. Fans were upset.
Well, and I'm not sure how many people realize that he was cut and then on the practice squad. I know I didn't really think
I forgot
too much about it, but a lot of people did, and if you're looking at this, when you lose one of your own like that, one of your draft picks and a guy who has started some games and your offensive line stinks, you're like, okay, what are they seeing that we aren't? And he then played well, which is why he got picked up. He got a showcase time where he went out and played that well. It is upsetting. We're losing one of our own. This is a guy who has played fairly well for us, better than some of the guys that were playing ahead of him. And, again, Netane Muti, Mama Muti, as she's well known, was in Broncos for breakfast this morning, and she had a lot of things to say, and we can hit on some of that too. But she basically came in to say goodbye. She's been a longtime member of this community, so we knew one way or another something was up. And then she got into some of the reasons, without voicing it too much. Nothing I'm going to put in writing, but I don't mind talking about it in a pod. Some of the things that she had talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll dig into the Muti moving on ramifications. What does it mean for the offensive line going forward? Obviously, a lot of the stuff that we talked about this morning is somewhat out the window because we talked Muti getting a showcase down the stretch here. Maybe he's a starting left guard, at least in the fold. But now he's gone. What does that mean? What does Broncos not elevating him mean? But we'll get into it. Let's say hello to some folks in here first. Diamond Rattler. Broncos basically gave Muti away since they could have elevated him. Can't wait until this management is gone. Boom, let's go. We also got Mike S coming in here saying, "What's up, Broncos country? Should have elevated Muti to the practice from the practice squad."
From the practice squad, yeah.
Yep. And also we got William coming in saying, "What an ignorant thing to let happen. Boy, the season has been one log slog." Well, good news, William, is that it's only 4 games from being over, and then we'll talk ourselves back into a fever that come next offseason and talk ourselves back into this team being better than it is, but it should be better next year. Jetty Splash coming in with saying, "Good night all, had a busy day, happy about anyone being held back behind the Broncos starting offensive line getting a chance elsewhere." Yeah, it's definitely a bummer, but again, it's this isn't going to make a huge difference on the team, but it's still a young player that looked much better than any other guys that were out there at left guard in this game. I think he's 2 years younger than your recent draft pick and Luke Wattenberg as well, because he was drafted so young. And just frustrating for sure. Jay Kozad coming in saying, "Another questionable Peyton move. I hope ownership is keeping score." I am sure they are. And Jamie coming in saying, "No big deal. Hope he has a good career, but no big deal." It's a bummer still because he's a young, potentially ascending player, and he had a chance to be an option in an offensive line is looking for options in the future. So I think that's the biggest bummer. Opportunity is out the window there.
And for me, and I'll get into it a little bit, Nick. For me, part of this is what's concerning a little bit, and I do want to say hello to Phil, who's coming in with some stars. As I glance over here to Facebook, Phil's coming in and breaking the ice with stars. He says, "Evening, Nick and Deacon Scott. Broncos for breakfast, now Broncos for dinner, or dessert for me. So Broncos for dessert. Really surprised about Muti. Gonna miss Mama Muti. So are we. Go Broncos. MHH for life." One of the things is, not necessarily if you say, okay, we lost a practice squad guy, whatever. That's the top level surface of this. No big deal. One of the more concerning things to me is some of the things that Miss Muti was saying, which was, and some of it can be sour grapes. Let me preface that by saying, but she was just like, listen, they're choosing guys based on salary, not based on performance. From what I've seen, there's some truth to that. That's not a huge revelation. The first round draft pick, the guy on scholarship gets more chances than the guy on the walk on. The first round pick gets 50 chances where the second round pick doesn't. A lot of that isn't, which is why we love our walk-ons who make it big, our undrafted free agents who work their way up through special teams and become a starter and get a big contract. That's why we love it, because they have to work 3 times as hard as the guy that was drafted first, or the scholarship guy with all the stars next to his name. But when you start losing competition in a football team, you start losing games. And we've seen a lot of that this year. I mean, Nick, how many times have we talked about how there's so much of it that seems impossible. Russell Wilson's choosing the starting offensive line. No way. That's impossible. Well, Jesus, is it? Because the more and more of the stuff this comes out, the more and more it's like, well, who is the cook in this place? Because right now it's rudderless, man. Yeah. That's what's more concerning to me, what I've learned today.
Yeah, really, definitely a upsetting, no doubt, and especially going to the Raiders adds insult to injury and just really confusing, no doubt. And what this potentially says to me is that the Broncos next year, and I got to give credit to my guy Zan on Twitter for pointing this out, and then some other stuff, behind the scenes. Seems to be a little bit of a groundswell to this, but does this mean anything as far as the long-term job status for Nathaniel Hackett and this scheme? Now, Netane Muti came out from Fresno State, played left tackle, had a lot of injuries there, but really known as a gap scheme, power-centric player, because getting to the second level, double teaming and then climbing to the second level, taking a linebacker, a moving linebacker at that, never his strong suit. Taking the guy at the point of attack right in front of him and pushing him, duo or something, he can do that. I'm curious if this move suggests that the Broncos are planning to stick with an outside zone-based scheme going forward, where Muti would not make as much sense. And maybe this is a, tinfoil hat, but maybe this is potentially an indicator that Nathaniel Hackett in this outside zone scheme might be back next year.
I think we're reaching on this one.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking, in the grand scheme of things, in the most high level, I know nothing. This is what I see. You lost a practice squad OL. Yeah. So what? That's that's the highlight. Anything more than that, and you're digging. You're really reaching for something more than that. Now, should he have been a practice squad OL? Should he have been in? When you start looking at the guards that are on the team, you're like, okay, well, we've got now Wattenberg, who's also a center, as a backup center. We're using Wattenberg. We're keeping, as far as the 8 that you're keeping, or the 9 that you're keeping on the 53. Glasgow goes 2 different directions. Okay. You've got your starting 5. Glasgow's out there. Wattenberg goes both ways. You've got someone like Bailey who they can use at tackle and has the ability to play multiple positions. So those guys are ahead of him for those reasons. Anything beyond that, and it's really, really a stretch. You're not reading into, does Nathaniel Hackett keep his job based on the fact that you lost a practice squad OL? That's really reaching, Nick.
I'm okay with that. I just I'm trying to understand how this could be happening. I saw it today. I thought it was at least interesting, and more so to throw out the tidbit that there seems to be a little bit of a groundswell that maybe Hackett could be kept beyond this season. But we got Marcus Lewis-Henna coming in here with the support saying, what the heck is going on with letting offensive line go? We need some players ourselves. Broncos obviously did not value Netane Muti as much as the fans did and as much as the Raiders did. He's signed now with the Raiders. We will see as time passes if this is a move that hurts them or if it's a move that, is negligible in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, appreciate the stars, Marcus, coming in from the UK and staying up late with us. It's Broncos for midnight stroll for Marcus Lewis-Henna. Appreciate you being here. You had just made a mention before I said hello to him, and I lost my train of thought completely. Ryan Slavic's coming in, asking about Todd McShay. We will get into that one a little bit. And how do you lose an offensive line when you need some yourself? I went through a little bit of the pecking order, so to speak. Had Muti proven himself to be indispensable, where it was like, oh my God, how is he not on the practice? How is he not part of this group? No, I don't think he had really distinguished himself that much in to be fair, the little bit that I watched him play last year. But it was, again, when she's talking about, and she came in, and I have no reason to the phrase I use, she might be biased, doesn't mean she's wrong, that he was outplaying Wattenberg, but Wattenberg was the second guy. So Reisner's first, Wattenberg came in second, Bailey third, Muti fourth. So this week they went through 4 left guards and Muti was fourth on that list. Yeah. How does Wattenberg stay on the team? Well, he was drafted by this group.
Regime.
He was drafted by this regime, and having the ability to play center. He was drafted as a center. Guard is just an emergency. And he's a first-year guy. So that's how he is on the roster, because of his versatility to play more than one position. Arguably, you might say he can't play guard. But again, you're throwing Luke Wattenberg in there against Chris Jones in his first start. That's not fair to Luke Wattenberg, for God's sakes. Yeah. I'm not going to make a final decision on Wattenberg based on what I saw this week. That's for sure.
It certainly wasn't a good indicator. And it is a data point going forward. So he might be completely different next year. He was drafted as an older offensive lineman, I think going to be 25 years old or already 25 years old, and just didn't look even, it's serviceable in any extent out there. So that's a concerning data point so far, but he'll get a chance next year. The other thing is the years of control left. I think Muti, because of the practice squad designation, would have been a restricted free agent this year. I'm not sure exactly how that works out because they released him and brought him back. What the contract would look like, but you still have, after the season, 3 years of contract control with Wattenberg. The other thing talking about here, it's the guys who are paid more. If that was true, then we would have seen Graham Glasgow playing over Quinn Miners at right guard this season. I think who this regime picked probably has precedence over who was paid more, because Quinn Miners.
That's common.
Yes, and
that's common, which is why when you and I first started doing this together almost 2 years ago, it was, right when Peyton had just started, and I'm like, I can't believe Fangio's still here. Yeah. The GM, not that he got another, are you surprised they fired? I'm surprised he was retained.
Yep.
With the 2 years and a bad record and a new GM, dude, why is he here? That was an indicator, Nick, of the wishy-washiness almost of personnel decisions on some of these things. Paul comes in, he says, odds of Nick or Scott being signed to the practice squad. I actually had myself in a trade. I substituted myself for Drew Lock, and said this morning when asked about, what do you think about Drew Lock? And my response was, this isn't about Drew Lock. This is about Russell Wilson. You would rather have all your picks back and me as quarterback than Russell Wilson right now. And $245 million contract has nothing to do with Drew Lock. Drew Lock is just in the conversation because he was a former Bronco.
Yeah.
The trade and the lamenting of the trade itself has nothing to do with who you sent and everything to do with who you got. So I don't think we're going to be signed, but I did offer myself up in hindsight as a trade piece to get your picks back, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I say that the offensive line is not very good, but Russell Wilson brings a lot of the hits and sacks onto himself with his play style. But I'm not going to put my money where my mouth is in that one, where I'm not signing up to be the quarterback behind this offensive line right now. So definitely not meant to be in that one. We got Phoenix coming in saying, what the heck are they doing? They have nothing but scrubs playing offensive line right now, and Muti was expendable. I would argue that Quinn Miners is playing at an above average level. And I think Cam Fleming, I know everybody wants a right tackle because right tackle is the buzzword, but I think Cam Fleming has played at a league average level. And considering what you're playing him, he's probably outperforming his contract. But center, left guard, and left tackle have all been struggling, especially in the post Garrett Bowles injury. So
And Phoenix, he's exaggerating. We get it. It's exaggerating a little bit. I get it. But again, he was on the practice squad, and I want to get to Miguel here, coming in with some stars, is kind of on the same wavelength here. He says, for them to let Muti go, are the Broncos thinking Reisner is good to go the rest of the year? Muti was 4th. Again, so it might not even be Reisner. He was 4th. Now, he stayed in. I went through this guy. I went through Reisner's not healthy. I went through Wattenberg. He was getting his butt kicked. I went through Bailey, better, but let's throw Muti in there and see what we got. Of those 3, Muti was probably the best one, but he was still 4th choice. Mm-hmm. So it might not have anything to do with Reisner. And again, more to do with the fact that some of these other guys will play multiple positions, or can. Like I said, that's debatable. But on paper, can flex to a position or two between center and guard, or maybe guard and tackle. And Muti was strictly guard. So the versatility, and again, as Nick has said, and as I will reemphasize, the syllable thing. Muti wasn't picked by these guys. He wasn't chosen by these guys. He wasn't evaluated by these guys, and he wasn't picked by these guys. And you are more likely to stick with the ones who you put your neck on the line for when you made these picks. Montreal Washington's going to get a few more opportunities than some, say, Kendall Hinton, than something like that. Kendall Hinton's played his way into being that person, but I'm just mean someone that's been around for 3 years or longer.
Yep, and another one today, McTelvin Najim released, former Regime player, just fits right into it, released from the practice squad. So see what happens there with the Broncos' new practice squad spots. I guess they're going to have probably be some moves announced tomorrow. We got Albert Knopper's coming in saying, good evening, just saying hi tonight. We'll be busy a bit myself. Well, thank you for stopping by and saying hi. We got Mark Lindemode saying, howdy, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Broncos for supper again. Love it. Well, good. You're getting second helpings. Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, good evening, Nick and Scott on building the Broncos. Go Broncos. We also got Kevin Gray saying, hi, Nick and Scott. Evening. I'm not sure, but I think the Broncos need to replace the medical and the training staff. They're going to have to look into it. There's been so many injuries this season, but I'm not an expert in kinesiology or anything like that. If I was advising the Walton Penner group, though, I'd be like, okay, how can we win in the margins? Because you are always limited to the contracts you have, the draft capital you have, the salary cap, et cetera, but you can overspend in other areas to get an edge. One of that would be the scouting department, the analytics. If you can pay more there and get a better product, then you have a slight edge, and that should give you an advantage. The other area is the training staff and the medical staff. Again, don't have firsthand knowledge of what's going on there. All I can see is the results have been poor as far as the injuries, and that's something that they will hopefully pour their resources into to improve.
Yeah, Kevin, I agree. It's come up. The thing that's starting to make everybody a little bit nervous is, I say watch the tea leaves. As people start to turn, that's when you know something's in the works. And it's come up the last several weeks. The play-by-play guys are talking about it. The beat writers are all talking about it. They're all questioning, which is kind of an indicator that something is in the works for this year. What makes me wonder, though, and Nick, I think part of it is, as you're saying, has it turned a little bit on Nathaniel Hackett? Part of it is because Nathaniel Hackett is so easy to root for. You want him to do well, that you want to, even if he's out, you want to send him out. What can I do to help, coach? I can start talking about how he was dealt a bad hand. I can start talking about when he was hired, he thought he was getting Aaron Rodgers, and he ended up giving all the keys to Russell Wilson. We can start leaking that kind of stuff out because we really like Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to change at the end of the day. Owners, billionaires, they ain't real sentimental. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, he's still going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I think you're right as well, but there does seem to be a change in the wind, and just kind of thinking, okay, what has changed to maybe make that a case? Maybe some people around the league are not really super interested in coming and being handcuffed with Russell Wilson, especially given some of the rumors of his control of roster and playbook and design kind of stuff. The other thing I think about with this is, you mentioned it earlier, and about George Payton keeping Vic Fangio around. A lot of times it's pretty hard to having a former guy in place if you move on from, especially the head coach and general manager, a former guy in place, and then the other one comes in and you're kind of just constantly flipping them back and forth. Well, if you give them all one more season, it's really easy to move on from George Paton. It's really easy to move on from Nathaniel Hackett. It's not really easy, but it is doable to move on from Russell Wilson. And I think that might make the position a little bit more amenable to others out there. Obviously, the Broncos are the richest ownership group, but I think it's just all those things would be aligned. Where if you moved on from Nathaniel Hackett this season, are you really going to fire? You're going to have 3 or 4 different head coaches years in a row with the new general manager coming in. You're going to keep him. Is that head coach going to want to come in with Russell Wilson? If you keep it the same, it's much easier to be like, you know what, the lot of you're gone.
If Peyton, I'm assuming Peyton's going to get another year, and let's just say, like you're saying, I get what you're saying 100%. But if we're of the opinion that Peyton's probably going to get another chance at it, then he would be tied to the next coach. So if he's here next year, he's here 3 years.
You think so?
Where I would say he would probably get a chance because to ride out the next coaching cycle. And then you can still, everything you're talking about, you can still do in 3 years. You're not switching them off. I think he's tied to the fate of the next coach that he would be allowed to hire, and you would still do exactly what you're talking about, which is clean house.
The one thing that makes that hard is the guaranteed contract of Russell Wilson for 2025 at the 5th day of the league year in 2024. It jumps up an extra $38 million. That whole roster becomes guaranteed. And are you going to cut Russell Wilson and keep George Paton and a new head coach? I mean, maybe. I guess it's possible.
Yeah, maybe.
But that's the kicker right now is the Russell Wilson one there too. So I don't know. Well, again, we're getting off topic here a little bit, but and we got Roy Osborne saying, "Good evening, Nick and Scott. I'm not happy with getting rid of Muti." And an article that I read said that we should hire Frank Reich, one going for surely going backwards, and a more potential hire going backwards more. I mean, Frank Reich was solid there with the Colts for a number of years. I feel like right now everybody's obsessed with getting a experienced head coach, but if you just go back the last 10 years, there's not really any sort of positive or negative hit rate for first-time head coaches versus experienced head coaches. I just get the best guy in there. I don't give a hoot if he's defense or offense or first time or second time. Just get the best guy. But Frank Reich is certainly an option out there. I think he's more likely than Sean Payton at this point.
Yeah, he's worth an interview for sure, especially when you look a winning record with 6 different quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks in his tenure with Indianapolis. And it's an interesting dynamic ownership, general manager, head coach dynamic in Indianapolis. That's for sure. Jim Irsay's he's a little nuts. So it's possible. Again, it is definitely possible.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It'll be interesting. And again, it seems like there's some wind change that Hackett might get a second year. So we'll see. Ernie Mays, hello, Nick and Scott, go Broncos country. Good to see you, Ernie. I also saw Kathy's in the house. Hello, Kathy. Good to see you. We also got Ryan Slavic coming in saying, good morning, Broncos country. Muti will get a better opportunity, at least with the Raiders. Best of luck to him going forward. Rest in peace to Coach Mike Leach. Yeah, really big bummer on that one, man. He has his fingers all over the landscape of the NFL and college football right now. His guys are everywhere, all across the league. So he's definitely an innovator, and it's unfortunate to see that happen. No doubt. Thinking about him and his family and everybody that he's impacted. What do you guys think about Todd McShay, ESPN, saying the Broncos will pick a running back in the first round? Scott, what do you think about this Todd McShay mock draft?
Okay, so it was the Broncos, pick at 23, I think, 24, saying, and McShay's got, with San Francisco's pick, them taking running back Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. He said, this is a tough one. The defense is solid. Denver doesn't really need another wide receiver, and Russell Wilson is locked in quarterback. I agree with all that stuff. He says, I'd love for him to go offensive tackle, but there doesn't seem to be one in that spot. Okay, that said, like the 6 players that go after were like defensive end and defensive backs. I'd still rather have them, and like a wide receiver in there than a running back at 24. We've talked about that, and you don't know what you're going to get with Javonte Williams. You really don't. But first round running back, if I don't go offensive line, and I'm trading down, and that's not part of it there. You might say I might trade down and try and accumulate more picks, but I really don't want a running back in that spot. If there's a guy you love because nobody wants a running back and Bijan Robinson falls to 24, okay, he's a beast. He's got him going 5.
Yeah, he went
Top
over.
5. Okay, maybe not love him that much. But I don't remember thinking of Jahmyr Gibbs is the next Najee Harris coming out of Alabama. Bam X would probably know better than I do at this point, but I don't love the pick. The overall mock I thought was okay this early from McShay, and I don't usually have a lot of decent things to say about Todd McShay. And I thought this was okay, but I wouldn't want them to go this pick at this spot.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The Broncos are going to have to address the running back position this offseason. You're not going to know about Javonte Williams' ability or future at the point where you're going to have to be making roster moves for next season. So you need to attack the offseason like Javonte Williams is not going to be available for half the year. And you definitely can't go into the offseason thinking, oh, he's definitely running back 1 week 1. I think that's preposterous to do that. You're really just, you punt on the season at that point, in my opinion. I think you probably bring in a free agent running back first. It's a really good class. Maybe somebody on a 2-year contract or something. I know that you have George Payton has ties to Alex Madison, running back out of Boise State. I think they took in the 3rd round, who's been pretty darn good for Minnesota in spot duty. There's a number of other running backs too. And then probably take a running back round 3 through round 5, somewhere in this class as well, just to get more talent back there. I think the running game is super important for how Russell Wilson is going to need to win in today's NFL landscape. But you're right. Gibbs, he's a fine player. I think he's much more of a quick pass kind of option. I thought of people were like, oh, he's a lot like Alvin Kamara, which, great if you can get an Alvin Kamara. The Saints used a 3rd round pick on Alvin Kamara, I think. I don't know if he's a true banger between the tackles kind of guy, which you kind of want to punish teams playing 2 high safety shells / lighter boxes. It's not really his game. He's really good. He just isn't special to the point like Bijan Robinson. The conversation with Bijan Robinson to me is like, okay, I wouldn't take a running back in the top 10. I was screaming that forever in the draft. People wanted Saquon Barkley with the Broncos to pick at 5 that season. They took Bradley Chubb. No, a lot of Broncos fans wanted to trade up into the top 10 to go get Christian McCaffrey from 20 overall. No, if you're picking 25 or whatever, 24, and one of those guys falls to you there, okay. I don't really love running back round 1, but this is a different kind of running back. So that happened. Yeah.
And I'm almost to the point now. Appreciate you, Ryan. I'm almost to the point now where you can say, well, I can't believe the Raiders didn't pick up Josh Jacobs' 5th round option. I can. The 5th round option is 8 figures. I can re-sign him for $7 million's like really good running back money. And the 5th year option for a guy picked around 20 is like $13 or $14 million. That the 5th year option would make him one of the top, if not the highest paid running back in the NFL. So I get that. Not going 1st round at all and not picking up the 5th year option for a running back is a true 4-year contract at that point. And Marcus is getting a little angry here as we were talking about, the spinning around a groundswell of support for Nathaniel Hackett. Says, why are people still listening to rumors about Russ when he has shown that he is not washed? God, get rid of Hackett, Marcus says. And again, like I said, I think some of this is what can we do? Because he really is. It's like I come on here and I say, I think he's gone. And then I watch his press conferences and I feel bad for saying he's gone. And I want to say something. Well, it wasn't all him. No, it's not. But enough of it was that I think he's in trouble. I think he's in big trouble. Yeah. William Catalano comes in and says, don't be surprised if he's back. I wouldn't be 100% surprised, but I'd give you 5-1 right now that he's one and done.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct on that. So we'll see how it plays out. And, everybody has a share of blame here. I know a lot of people want it simplified and, it's all on one person. And once you remove this one single variable, everything will be fixed. There's numerous variables, the injuries, how the team is built, the scheme, the play calls, the quarterback, the power dynamics. I mean, we can go on and on about how did you get to this point? So
I'd have a whole lot different answer if I knew exactly the power dynamics and how they came about and not the hearsay. Yeah. I'd know exactly what I would do if I was the owner, if half of this stuff is true.
Yeah.
I'd clean house.
Yeah.
I would absolutely clean house. If I'm saying George Payton and Nathaniel Hackett, you're letting Russell Wilson pick the starting lineups. Okay. You're all fired. If that is true, you're all gone. That's how I would handle that, Nick.
Yeah. Yep. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, we got Russell Wilson here next year, regardless, but we'll got 4 more games to see, and against a pretty toothless Cardinals team coming into town. We'll see if we have Russell Wilson back after that head injury that he suffered. But it'll be interesting against Colt McCoy and a team that looks like they quit. And also to the point where the Cardinals have said, you know what, we're not playing for this season anymore. We'd rather give the Raiders a 7th round pick instead of a 6th round pick because they released Tavon Mullen, their starting cornerback. And because of that, they didn't hit the numbers that would have to send a 6th round pick. So instead they'll be sending a 7th to the Raiders.
2 games. He would have had to play 2 more. Or was it like 2 snaps? I know
it was
much.
like a small. Yeah, it was a small.
It was 2 games, something that he would have had to have played. Yeah, that's cheeky.
Yeah. Yep.
And Chris Chance is coming in blue. Coming in. I think this is our first super chat of the night, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you. We've had some stars coming in. But Chris, appreciate you coming in and breaking the ice for us. He says, just want to say hi. Sprained my wrist today. Well, sorry to hear that. Hope it's okay. Sometimes those sprains, especially can be almost as bad as a break. So hope you're doing all right, and appreciate you supporting the show.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Back to Todd McShay's first round pick here real quick. I agree with you 100%, Scott, on your assessment about how this plays out. Bijan Robinson, I think, is special. You think about that there, but if not them, it probably needs to be. Obviously, everybody wants an offensive tackle, but I don't know if there is an offensive tackle that was worth it. We already had Broderick Jones from Georgia was off the board. Mm-hmm. You had Peter Skoronski off the board, who I think is more of a guard, but I would take him at 24 or whatever. Fine. That guard, you can find them, but I think he's about as safe as you can get out there. And I'm also maybe starting to drink that tea down that far in the first round after watching the Falcons this year with Chris Lindstrom. But I digress. The other positions here, cornerback and edge rusher. Defense. Why would you use defense? You're getting a young cost control player at some of the most expensive positions in football. Mm-hmm. Guess what you get to do when you pay pennies on the dollar for expensive positions? You can overinvest money in other sides of other sides of the offense. So if you're paying nothing for your edge rushers, guess what? You have more money to pay on the offensive line. If you're paying nothing for your cornerbacks, guess what? You can pay a wide receiver. So it all comes down to the long-term economics of the team.
And the long-term economics on that also is you've got assets that hold their value. You got a first round in return for Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb, who's been injured a ton. Has been, I don't think I'm going on a limb here and saying that his career in Denver was a disappointment to most Broncos fans based on where he was picked and based on where he was. And you still flipped him for a first rounder with 6 months left on his contract because he was an edge. He was a productive edge. You do that with a running back, forget it. You're lucky if you get a third. What did Christian McCaffrey fetch in return for when he was traded?
I think it was a future 2, 3, and 4, but because it was
bad. That's not bad actually.
It's pretty good. It does lose value because of the fact that it's 2024 picks versus 2023. But yeah, no, they got.
But we're not talking about a wide receiver, or we're not talking about a corner. Again, those can actually appreciate in value, where you can actually spend them for more than you got them for.
Yeah.
Where that doesn't happen in the positions, of lesser value, no matter how good the players are. You mentioned Chris Lindstrom in the Atlanta Falcons. He might be the best guard, one of the best offensive linemen in football. You get multiple first round picks for him if you put him on the board.
Maybe maybe just one single one.
Yeah. But if you throw Pat Surtain up there, you're starting the bidding at 2 and change, 2 first rounders, and then what? So it does matter. It absolutely matters.
Yep. So edge rusher, cornerback, wide receiver as well, got to be in the conversation. But I would not take a running back there. Bijan Robinson makes me think about it because he is pretty darn special. But again, this is just an academic conversation at this point because I'd be shocked if he falls out of the top 20 because I do think that running back value is trending up a little bit right now. Not a lot, but a little bit. It's not going to be like it was, I think, perspective, the last 3 years, considering where teams are at right now. We're starting to see a little bit more bully ball out there because teams are playing nobody in the box. Teams are playing 2 high safety shells. And go ahead, Scott.
Oh, I told you it was one of the first games of the year as you and I had gone back and forth on this a ton. Mm-hmm. I was watching the Packers. It may have been the Eagles, but it was somebody up there, and this team's driving out. All they need is a field goal, and the Packers are out there in a nickel. There's like 3:50 on the clock. They only need like 40 yards, and the Packers are out there in a nickel while they're just going 7 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, 5 yards, nice and easy, and they never adjust. Like, man, if you're going to go light, I am going to run it down your damn throat.
No.
And
we saw
we're starting to see some more of that. If you want to go light, fine. I'll go heavy. And when you go heavy, then I'll go light. I mean, that's the league's been like that for years. I mean, the Smurfs were the Washington Redskins 80s. That followed the Rathman, Tom Rathman, Roger Craig 49ers, big bullies. The greatest show on turf, small wide receivers. This is the 90s. Then it goes big and heavy again. It's cycles in and out. I just said I got 20 years on you, dude. I got 4 cycles on you.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, and there's always little intricacies and nuances that change how it's played.
Again, these are gross generalizations, but
yeah. So that's
true-ish.
Yeah, true-ish. And that's one reason I think the running back value is increasing a little bit. I also think the value of a rookie running back is a little bit higher because first round is different, but like the difference between rookie running backs versus rookie contract running backs versus second contract running backs, I'd rather have a stable of guys that are first contracts versus paying running backs their second contracts, just given the wears and tears and the age and how much they depreciate in value. But we're getting way off the rails here.
And the problem is like you said, is I don't want to give a running back a second contract. So I'm looking at, 4 years and then I'm going to have to do something else, which if I get 4 great years out of a running back, fine.
Yep.
But man, I get an offensive lineman, I can get a decade. I can get, 10 years out of most other positions where the running back position. And this is, well, we can split it up some. Well, then what do I need a first round pick for? I can share the load. Okay, well, give me 3 5th round guys then. So I'm completely on your side. Like I said, I grew up when linebackers and running backs were the stars, other than the quarterbacks, of course. But the days of Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson and Barry Sanders and Walter Payton and all those guys. And it's a different league now. It's different.
They're valuable, but their value is very short term. That's just the investment you have to make. So yeah, probably hoping the Broncos get an offensive line here. Scott and I will start to dig in much more into the offensive line prospects as it goes forward. I think, did I list my third guy? Sorry, Broderick Jones at Georgia, Peter Skronsky at Northwestern, and then my offensive lineman number 1 in this class is Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State. After that, there's some talk about Jalen Duncan, Anton Harrison at Oklahoma, the right tackle at Ohio State as well. The Darnell Wright at Tennessee, but I don't think any of those guys are ones that I would feel comfortable using a top 30 pick on. They're just not the type of athletes.
And Ryan coming in saying Muti's mom called it this morning as far as, something was happening. I don't think she was guessing. No. I don't think that was a prediction, but you're right. And that was kind of cool, for those of you who join us on Broncos for breakfast. That was kind of breaking news. I'm like, sometimes it's a little hard to explain what I do for a living. I'm like, well, I had inside information on a Broncos move from a parent while we were live doing the show. I was talking sports. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. So yeah, I don't think she was guessing. And what I don't like to guess is, where's Gary Palmer? Gary Leeds Palmer coming in on YouTube with coming in orange. Appreciate you, Gary. Always a big supporter of the show, of me and Nick, no matter where we are. And we love you for it. So happy holidays to you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gary. We appreciate you so much. So getting into this running back conversation here, the Broncos, obviously, unfortunate news, putting Mike Boone on the IR, effectively ending his season. Mike Boone, obviously, just been battling this high ankle sprain, re-injured the same ankle, I believe. And that's probably it for his career in Denver. So the Denver Broncos running back room is back down to practice squad addition. Latavius Murray signed off another team practice squad, signed off another team practice squad, Marlon Mack, and signed off another team's practice squad, Divine Azigbo. So really a room that is pretty barren. Unfortunately, a lot of running back talk today. I never thought I'd see the day. But that's where you are right now with this offense. Luckily for the Broncos, you have some defenses coming up that are not amazing, specifically this upcoming week in the Arizona Cardinals. I think they're number 1 in the NFL in points given up per game so far, and they've not
32, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, the worst in it. And really just not a very good defense out there. Vance Joseph's unit, for those of you at home, this is a unit that likes to blitz. I think they have the highest rate of blitzes in the NFL. And Man, they're just not very good. And just a little bit of a feather in my cap here for this one, just for team building wise. A defense that features 2 first-round linebackers, one in the top 10 and one in the top 25. Very good-looking athletes. First guys off the bus doesn't quite make a good defense if your cornerbacks are bad and you can't get after the passer.
Yeah, the Patrick Petersons of the world, where are you?
Yeah.
Those days. He was a high pick for sure. And watching that game, I knew Boone had gotten hurt when I watched the game, and I'm watching, and you just saw it right away.
Yeah.
When he went, it was like someone fell on him, like he broke his leg, didn't he? I mean, like that's what that felt like watching live, even from a far away shot. I'm like, he looked like he broke his leg. I don't know if it was quite that bad because these guys at times are superhuman. You see them bend in ways that they just shouldn't be able to do and get up and walk off. Yeah, I feel bad for him. I've made fun of the Mike Boone legend in Denver, but that doesn't have anything to do with him. That has to do with us. One, I think his contract, what's supposed to do? Not sign it? I don't think it was a great contract to begin with for what you were getting out of him. That's not his fault.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he's been put on this pedestal by Denver Broncos fans for not doing a whole lot, that's not his fault either. So I feel bad for him. Whenever we've seen him in there, he's busting his ass and giving everything he's got. We just never got to see much of him, unfortunately.
Yeah. And we got Not Sure coming in saying picking up Murray and Mack from other teams' practice squad seems like solid moves.
Mm-hmm.
It's the situation that you find yourself in and the reality of the talent that you have in the backfield more than the solid moves. You didn't have much elsewhere to go, really. And you didn't want to be giving up draft capital to bring in a guy at the trade deadline. So they are fine moves, but there's a reason that any single other team in the NFL could have picked these guys up.
And let's start September 1st. Let's start. And what's funny is I read your name and I read it into every time I read your name, I read it right into the comment. So I'm not sure picking up Murray and Mack off other teams' practice was a good move. Let's think we're at September 1st. Okay. Everybody's all first day of the season. It's opening day. We're all pretty happy. Man, the running back room looks good. Javonte Williams, Mike Boone, Melvin Gordon. We're solid here. Fast forward to December 1st, and I tell you it's Devine Zigbo, Latavius Murray, and Marlon Mack. And you say, oh my God, what happened to our season?
Yep.
It says it right there. Yeah, it was good moves, but like Nick said, it gives you an idea of where you're at. That these guys are good pros, but it's not where you want to be at all. And it's unfortunate. There's been some serious problems at the running back position, 2 really serious injuries, and then Melvin Gordon just again, some of that I said was mental for him. You could tell he was in his own head with the fumbles. He wasn't running as carefree and loose by the end because all he could think about was fumbling, which hinders the ability of why you have him to begin with. But if he's not running like that, guess what he's doing, Nick?
Fumbling the damn ball.
Fumbling.
Can't have it.
Fumbling.
Can't have it. So any other things we want to talk about?
Real quick on this. The team has played better after we cut Gordon. The team's lost 6 in a row. Okay. Don't want to hear it. The team. And the thing is that the three teams with the worst records, Nick, we want to talk about Tankathon. Unfortunately, it's not because I think 2 of them don't even have their own picks. They've lost 19 straight games. And the only ones that haven't are probably because they ended up playing each other somewhere in there. With the Texans, the Texans, Bears, and Broncos have lost 19 straight.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's been glimpses, but the pressure's off. The pressure in respects are Super Bowl or bust. We've busted. Now I'm out there. Like I've said, Nathaniel Hackett's out there coaching like he already knows his fate. He's already fired. He's up there. He doesn't look all nervous and jittery and happy. He's just like, whatever, man. He's glum and matter of fact now. Like he already knows his fate. And the pressure's off. I don't care if a guy goes on you're 30 games out of first place and this guy goes on a tear. Dude, it doesn't matter anymore. Doesn't count anymore. Sorry.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the show?
So many games.
Yeah, I think they might be favored in this upcoming game, which is going to be wild. Did you ever watch the show Community?
I didn't.
Damn. Okay,
Mm-mm.
Community. Well, there's like the the darkest timeline, and they come up and like there's alternates of the characters, but they have like these goatees, and it's like the evil versions of themselves. And I think we're in the darkest timeline for Nathaniel Hackett right now with his goatee and everything going on. This is as dark as it gets for Nathaniel Hackett losing that bubbly nature that he has. But yeah, no, it's a
I'm just
rough, no
happy to
doubt.
be here. The
Yeah,
everything. I mean, I call it a permagran. He's like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe I'm here. That's freaking gone.
yeah,
Gone.
yeah. It's gone. It's
Now it's just like we got to score more points. We got to do better. It starts with me. We got to protect Russ. We're gonna do what's best for him. We're gonna try and do it the right way.
we have to evaluate everything.
Yeah, we're evaluating that as we go along.
Yeah,
it's
Lord Jesus, please help Broncos country. God, that's where we are. So before we get on out of here, Scott, any final thoughts on the Todd McShay draft here? We talked about the edge rushers were on there. In this case, I probably am looking at Anton Harrison, offensive tackle from Oklahoma. Not to get my words mixed up earlier. He's a fine athlete. I wish he's a little bit more physical. He might be one that's borderline first round. There's also Rasheed, I think his first name is Rasheed Rice, wide receiver from SMU that I'd be very interested in as well. Sounds like I would be pretty shocked if KJ Hamler's here next year. And with the injury of Tim Patrick, the play of Sutton, and the unknown long term of Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver is definitely something that you might want to invest in as well. And if not, then just value positions, cornerback, edge rusher, stack those rooms, get a little bit better there.
My thought over this is a little bit about the quarterback position. I think some of the shine is coming off of these quarterbacks. We've talked about that a lot. My friend texted me. He's like, "Have you seen McShay's mock yet?" I'm like, "Not yet, but I have to. We're going to talk about it tonight, so I need to check it out." He's like, "He's got Levis going to the Falcons," and he was pissed. He's like, "This guy's terrible." This is one of my best friends. He's good at this too. He's a Georgia grad. He's watched Kentucky all the time. He goes, I mean, I know they weren't very good, but Levis at 6, that guy's terrible. He used much more colorful language than this. I'm not ready to throw in the towel on Will Levis, but we've talked about, are these guys being talked about too high? Are they going to fall down some? They're not going to fall like the quarterbacks did in the last class. I mean,
No.
God, it went Malik Willis in the 20s and then 3rd round. They won't fall like that, but I don't think 3 are going to go in the top 5.
No.
So it still wouldn't surprise me to see 2 go. It won't surprise me to see Bryce Young and CJ Stroud go top 5. But again, I've seen Bryce Young go as low as 15 and Will Levis go number 1 overall. It is that time of year. It's the beginning of December.
Yeah, and there's not really the great film plus incredible traits prospects at quarterback in this one.
There's questions on all those guys.
Yep, it's not.
You and I were having a Twitter conversation about building a robo quarterback.
Yeah.
What do they look like? And then you have to start saying, okay, where are you willing to make compromises? Mm-hmm. Size. Bryce Young, okay, he's got moxie, he's got arm, I can deliver it from different angles. He's got that it factor. He's got everything except size. What's the but in there? What are you willing to live with? Because there's warts on all of these guys.
I don't think his arm is that great. Also, just me talking personally here, we might have a different evaluation on that one. I think he's got a fine arm.
Yeah, he's got I would say a plus arm.
Like a Tua Tagovailoa.
He's not Josh Allen. He doesn't have a rocket for an arm, but he's got a plus arm. And for me, he's got more than enough arm that all of the things he does with the ball when it matters most is special to me. Andrew Lampy's special to me also, coming with some stars. He says, "Hey, all, hope everyone had a great day." Well, same to you, my friend. Appreciate you coming in on Facebook like that. Any questions or anything, you know where to find us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you so much. We also got Garth Knight coming in here saying, "This is the darkest season I've experienced as a fan of any of my teams I follow. Appreciate MHH enduring this with us." Yeah, we are. You guys are a captive audience, but we're all trying to process this right now. And it's poor Scott, man. We dragged him in here, and he's just right into the world of suck with us. I guess poor me as well. Let's have a pity party for Nick. Start covering this team leading into the 2017 draft. So it's been 2016 to now. I have not covered this team with MHH with a playoff season. I think they were a winning season. I think in 2016, if not winning, they were 8-8. But it's been a lot of bad bad football, and we're all here together. We have we're starting to get some Stockholm syndrome, no doubt. But we got Patrick coming. I think I saw Patrick come in both Facebook and YouTube. So coming in, Patrick saying good night, my coffee brothers. Well, maybe have some decaf there before going to bed, and we're gonna start wrapping up as well. Big news today: Muti being picked up for the Raiders. A little bit kind of wild seeing Netane Muti's mom come on and kind of precursor that news, saying, something's coming. Talk about her and Muti and Reisner being really good friends, and it's just some of the question marks there, some frustrations, no doubt. And
now they've cost us a great community member too. I almost we need to find a good Raiders pod and say, reach out to Mama Muti. She's great because she was coming in to say goodbye.
Yeah.
It was a little sad. It's a little sad this morning. We're happy though, because when you get signed off a practice squad, it means you have to be signed to the 53. Yep. So he's getting a promotion, which is also about a 3 or 4x raise. Yep. So congratulations to Muti. Woo! Speaking of congratulations to you and me, Nick. Yeah. Because Paul is coming in here. He says, thank you, Nick and Scott. No, dude, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Seriously, thank you. I said earlier, it sometimes can be tough for me to explain to people, wait, you do what for a living? I'm like, well, I kind of do this for a living. And it's because of people like you that let me live the dream. Let me do this. I always said it beats working for a living. So thank you so much, and happy holidays to you as well, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. The other moves today, Broncos release McTelvin Najim, former John Elway draft pick in that draft class that is looking just horrible right now, outside of the Jerry Jeudy pick. So that's one. He's out there. You had a lot of picks too, and that one just didn't go very well. Same as the Netane Muti draft, I believe, as well in that one. And then also the Broncos bring in Freddie Swain, wide receiver. I believe he went to Arkansas. If that name stands out to you. Don't think he's done too much in the league, but probably bringing in Swain says that we have some question marks about Cortland Sutton and and Kendall Hinton coming into this week. So watch out for that.
Isn't Freddie Swain an older guy, or I'm confusing him with someone else?
They brought in maybe Freddie. Is Freddie Swain the Steelers guy? That's Swan. Swain.
I don't know. I know McTelvin Najim was like, wait, I thought we had him cut a long, long time ago.
He was cut from the practice squad.
I know. When we were watching the Buffalo Bills, we're like, I don't want to see McTelvin Najim on the field again. Ever. That was harsh, but that's how I felt watching that one go and going through. Nick's was lamenting this draft class. Let me read that one off here real quick. Number 1, Jerry Jeudy. 2, KJ Hamler. 3, Michael Ojemudia. 3, Lloyd Cushenberry. 3, McTelvin Najim. How'd you like to have those 3 picks in this draft, knowing that you can only use them on interior linemen, Nick?
Yeah.
Yes, please. I'll take it.
Or running back.
Have them. Number 4, Albert Okwuegbunam. Number 5, Justin Strnad. Number 6, Netane Muti. 7th, Tyree Cleveland. And 7th, Derek Tuska. As Nick, I haven't heard it out of you in a long time, so let me do it for you. Woof.
Yeah. Maybe there's some hope for Jerry Jeudy. That's what we'll leave on. I hope Jerry Jeudy having the best game of his career. If you can get a wide receiver 1 and the rest of them don't work out, it's not great, but we'll salvage that class somewhat. Yeah, and as Facebook user says, that's a dog bleep class. Look like it so far. But yep, definitely a bummer seeing Muti go to the Raiders. Hope him good luck going forward when they don't play the Broncos, and good luck the rest of the season. Maybe he'll work his way back to Denver. But appreciate his time here in Denver and what never came to fruition for him. So a young player, still a lot of meat on the bone for him. And yeah, it was Freddie Swain. It's Michael Ronquillo saying he played with the Seattle Seahawks. I feel like I remember him playing at Arkansas more than in the NFL. But Broncos bought another wide receiver. We'll see what it means. And we'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
He's not that old. He's just 24. So I'm thinking of a different Arkansas receiver from back in the day. He's young. He's a youngin.
Okay. Am I right? Is it Arkansas? I'm looking it up.
I'm not even positive it was Arkansas. College, Florida.
I don't even remember him. Okay.
Yeah. Real distinguished career.
Yeah. But Yep. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. We're going to get on out of here. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendall MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at MHH pod, at BFB underscore pod, at BTB underscore
I'm
pod
going
as
to change
well.
that to a 4 just for you, Nick.
Yeah.
B4B. Broncos for breakfast. I'm going to change that to a 4 just for Nick.
I would enjoy that. But that's a make sure you're following us on there. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle, the mothership. If you're on Facebook, make sure you're in our communities at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says here underneath, please subscribe, like, and share, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. And it's the best way to see us. I mean, we're live on YouTube. We obviously see a huge YouTube community on here, and you guys are the best. It's the number one way to follow the show and join in these conversations, not just building the Broncos, not just Broncos for breakfast, but Dove Valley Deep Divers, Mile High Insiders, Huddle Up Podcast, Thomas's Legend show on Friday mornings as well. So make sure you guys are subscribed to us. That way you know when we go live. You guys are great. We appreciate you. We'll see you again tomorrow morning on Scott's show. And Scott has one thing before we go.
You usually ask me final thoughts, so I'm going to have final thoughts on here.
Good.
This is from Victor. Victor says, half my clothes are Broncos gear. I'm sad I can't wear anything without being made fun of. And as Rebels Legacy comes in, he says, Victor, wear it proud. Victor, this is when they need you the most.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the most embarrassing losses when you feel your lowest that I grab my stuff and I put it on. And I'm almost like, I dare you to say something to me. But it's this, the old Offspring song. The more you suffer, the more it shows you really care, right? So that's when they need you the most, brother. As long as you feel like they're putting forth a good effort, which you may or may not feel that way right now, then support your team. Support your team. That's when it's most important that you put your stuff on there, is when they need you the most, my friend. So, but I get it.
Absolutely. Yep. Don't quit. I said, won't quit. Well, good. You talked him off the ledge there. We're rocking it, rocking the navy and orange, but appreciate you guys so much. You have a great rest of your night. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. See you tomorrow morning. Go Broncos.